channel. If you're new here, my name's Meg, welcome, and if you're returning, then welcome back. Today's video is going to be part 4 of My First Love. If you haven't watched part 1, 2 and 3, then I do suggest you go and watch those first, otherwise this will just make absolutely no sense whatsoever. This is the longest story ever. Like, every time I sit down to film, I'm like, this is going to be the last part to the story now. And then it gets to like 40 minutes of filming and I'm like, I need to do another part. I can't fit it all into this one. This story is about my first boyfriend, my first love, obviously, my first everything, the guy that taught me how to love, the guy that also taught me heartbreak, taught me not to trust people. So yeah, it's a very long story. It was only just over a year-long relationship, but probably the most turbulent relationship I've ever been in. Like, so much happened in this short period of time. I'm going to do a quick summary of part 3 before I get into part 4, just in case anyone needs a little reminder of what happened in part 3. But before I do that, I'm just going to give my normal disclaimer that I give at the beginning of all my story times. I don't make these story times because I'm bitter about what happened. This was literally 11 years ago. No, yeah, 11 years ago this year it'll be. I don't care anymore. It doesn't affect me anymore to talk about it, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk about it to you. I don't have any malice towards my boyfriend from back then or any of the people that I mentioned in this video because, like I said, it was a long time ago. So that isn't why I am sat here telling you this story. I'm doing it purely for, I guess, educational purposes. I'm doing it for all the young girls out there that have had their heart broken by someone. It's always kind of a breath of fresh air, I think, when you're going through something and then you hear someone else's story and you realise that, you know, you're not the only one going through it, you're not the only one that's handled it in a certain way. So yeah, I'm really doing it for you guys more than I am myself. And also, another one that I always say, I am in a relationship, I love my boyfriend. I don't want it to come across like I'm that girl with a boyfriend that always talks about her exes, because that's not why I'm doing it. My boyfriend does not mind if I do story times about ex-boyfriends. I asked him his permission. He said he didn't mind. He knows that I'm not talking about it because I still care. It's purely just because you guys like my story times, basically. My story times are my most viewed videos on my channel. My toxic best friend one is my most viewed out of all of my videos. If you haven't watched that one, I'll link it down below. I always link all of my other story times down below as well. I'm gonna do a summary of part 3 now. And my boyfriend Harry, we were together for, how long have we been together at that point? Like maybe 8 months. We broke up, and during the breakup I discovered that he had been seeing one of my friends behind my back. And I was pretty adamant that it was over, but I did end up getting back with him after about 4 weeks of not being together. He kind of came crawling back to me. He made like a big gesture and told me that he wanted to get back with me, and I did. And then as the kind of months went on, it was very clear that, you know, he'd changed. Like, he was becoming very different towards me. He was kind of acting a lot more caring than he ever had before. And it kind of switched to me being the one that was in control and him being the one that was like pining after me, sort of thing. And shortly after our 1-year anniversary, literally the month after, I found out from my best friend at the time, who's actually the toxic best friend that I talk about in my toxic best friend story time. She just turns around to me quite casually one day and tells me that Harry, my boyfriend, has cheated on me. I kind of didn't feel hurt. Definitely didn't feel shocked. I don't know what it was. I did explain it in part 3, but I was literally waiting for him to do something else wrong. And I think it was because it just happened so often. I was constantly like let down by this guy. I was constantly hurt by him, and just nothing surprised me anymore. Like, honestly, nothing surprised me. So when my best friend told me this, to be honest, I was more upset by the fact that she'd never told me about it, being my best friend. But obviously I did have to also address the situation with my boyfriend. So I was out shopping with my best friend Beth, and I had texted Harry saying, you know, I need to talk to you. Around this time in our relationship, a lot of people had been coming up to me and telling me stuff that he'd done. Not cheating, but like just things that he'd done behind my back, like smoking weed, like just doing shit that he shouldn't be doing, basically. He was kind of like reacting to this message like, oh, like what's someone said now, like a little bit like trying to blame other people for what was going on in our relationship, like saying that people were trying to split us up, sort of thing. So yeah, I basically left him to sweat all day while I was out shopping. I didn't tell him what it was that I knew that I wanted to talk to him about. and that was where I ended part 3 last time. You know what, I look like a Cullen. I literally look like a member of the Cullen family right now. I don't know what it is. I don't have any foundation on. I've just got concealer on, and I think because my concealer is like so much lighter than what my foundation normally is, I look A, so much paler than I normally am. B, I'm literally sat in front of my window, so all of the natural light is shining in on me. And C, I've got like quite a dark lipstick on and like dark coloured clothes and dark hair, so it just makes me look so much paler than I am. So sorry that I look like a literal vampire in this video. So we're now going into part 4. Okay, so I got home from my shopping trip with Beth, and annoyingly, not annoyingly because it's really nice, but obviously at the time it was literally just me and my mum that lived at home. My dad had already left and both of my brothers had moved out by this point. I mean, my oldest brother moved out when I was like 7, but my other brother had moved out that year pretty much. Like, he hadn't been gone very long, but it was literally just me and my mum and the dog at home. But on this particular occasion, my mum's sisters, she has 4 sisters, so all of her sisters and my uncle's wife were all sat in the living room with my mum, because basically it was November at this point, and coming up in the December was my nan's 70th birthday. So they were planning like a big party for her. They were going to write some speeches and things like that. So my mum had everyone at our house to plan it. So it was a very rare occasion that we had a house full of people, and it was the complete wrong timing for me to have a house full of people when I had this going on. But obviously it's no one's fault. It was just, I just thought I'd mention that because it was like typical, you know, the one day when I'm about to go and confront my boyfriend for cheating on me, I've got every single one of my aunties downstairs along with my mum. So I obviously said hello to everyone, and I went upstairs and called Harry. And I kind of just got straight to the point. I didn't beat around the bush. I just said, you know, Beth's told me. I don't think I told him how she knew, because I didn't want to get his... No, I can't have cared about his friends, surely. I don't really know why. I don't really know what I told him, but I basically said that Beth had told me that he'd cheated on me at this house party. And obviously I knew, like thinking back to it, I knew who the girl was. It was the girl that called him when he was sat on my sofa breaking up with me. I believe that was in part 2 that I talk about that. I said, you know, Beth told me that you cheated on me, and at first he started denying it. Which I kind of thought he would do anyway. I didn't think he would come clean, because the thing is with him, and actually just men in general, is they'll never tell you the truth off their own back. They always wait for you to find out, and then you confront them, and normally they'll deny it at first but then admit it a bit later on. The thing is with women, if there's any men watching this, if a woman asks you a question, she knows the answer. She's not asking you because she doesn't know the answer. She's asking you because she does, and she wants to see if you'll lie to her. So yeah, that was kind of the thing with Harry. He never told me about anything. I always found it out. Like, even with the whole him seeing one of my friends thing, he never told me that. I found that out myself. That he kind of couldn't deny, because I'd seen the messages, so he couldn't even really deny that that had happened. But this, I guess there was no technical proof other than my best friend telling me, but like there was no actual evidence. Like, no one had seen it happen other than his friends, I guess. Like, there was no like messages or anything that I could prove it with, sort of thing. So yeah, it was probably a lot easier for him to deny it, and also he probably didn't want to admit to it because he knew that he'd lose me. And I think at this point, like in those last few months, he'd kind of only just realised what he had with me and didn't want to lose it again. Like, I think he knew that he took me for granted for the first like 6 to 8 months of our relationship. I think he definitely knew that, and I don't think he wanted anything to ruin that. I can't remember how the conversation went exactly. Like I said, it was 11 years ago, but I know that eventually he said, okay, I did do it. And I just hung up the phone because I didn't even know what to say. I remember I ran downstairs into my lounge where all of my aunties were with my mum, and I was just crying, and I said, Harry's cheated on me. And I mean, it was quite nice that I had all of my family there, because obviously they all rushed to like cuddle me and check that I was okay. I remember almost forcing myself to cry. It was really weird. Like, normally when you find something like that out, you're just gonna break down. But when he told me, like when he admitted it to me, it was almost like I was fake crying. I wasn't fake crying, I was genuinely crying, but it wasn't like the type of hurt that you would feel in that situation if it was a genuine shock, you know? It was a little bit like, okay, do you know what? I should be crying at this, so I feel like I should cry. But realistically, I'm not that hurt by this because I've known it in my head, I think, the whole time. It was a very weird situation. It's difficult to explain, to be honest, but yeah, I just was crying to my mum and my family, and he was texting me, calling me, messaging me on Facebook, like begging me to answer the phone to him, begging me to not leave him. He obviously couldn't come over and make a scene at my house because obviously I had family over. It was a very difficult situation. I don't think I answered the phone to him again that night. I think I probably replied to one of his messages just saying leave me alone because I didn't want to hear from him, to be honest. Part of me like wanted the relationship to end now. Like I knew that I was never going to trust him again. He'd hurt me so much now to the point where I was just numb to it. I was pretty sure that I didn't want to be in the relationship anymore, but there was a very small part of me that was like, I love this boy, he's my first love, and I did still love him. That was the thing. As much as like I'd kind of stopped liking him, I was still in love with him. He was my first proper relationship, and at this point in my life, my longest relationship. I've been with him for over a year. I lost my virginity to him. I'd never been with anyone else other than him. I think, you know, at that age as well, I mean, I was only 16 at this point. I think naively, I thought that I was going to spend the rest of my life with this boy. I didn't think there was ever going to be anyone else for me. And, you know, I guess when you're that age, you do think that, don't you? You don't think you've got your whole life ahead of you to meet somebody. But I did. I thought he was the only guy for me. I didn't want to go back to being on my own, because the thing is, when we did break up, those couple of occasions where we broke up, I was heartbroken and I was pining after him, and I was just wanting more than anything for him to want to be with me again. And this was the first time that something had happened in our relationship where I had, I guess, what would you call it, like the control? Because I was the one that wanted to break up and he was the one that didn't. He was doing everything he could to try and keep us together, which was really weird for me because I'd never experienced that with him before. He'd always been the one that broke up with me. It was never me that broke up with him. And so it was just very odd. I didn't know how to deal with that. It was just a really weird situation. But the thing was, no matter how much we tried to make it work, I would always find a way to bring it up. I would always find a way to argue with him. I just didn't want to be in love anymore. I wanted to argue about it. I wanted to scream and shout at him constantly, and I didn't want to be happy with him anymore, you know? I think once you've got that in your head, it's very difficult to get back from it. I did end up staying with him for around 2 weeks after I found out about him cheating on me, but it was horrible. Like, the relationship was just not a relationship anymore. I would purposefully go out and not tell him where I'd gone, and he'd be ringing like my mum's house phone asking where I was, and obviously I'd tell her that she couldn't tell him anything, and he'd be ringing my mobile and I'd be ignoring him. Like, we weren't acting like a couple at all. I was constantly going on his Facebook and checking up on him and seeing who he was messaging. He had this female friend. What should we call her? We'll call her Hayley. So Hayley was one of those girls that none of the boys were ever interested in, but she was one of the lads. You all know the girl I'm talking about. She was always friends with the boys and not the girls, and she would always be very tactile with everyone else's boyfriend, you know? But because she was one of the lads, she used to get away with it with them. Like, the boyfriends would never think, oh, hey, Hayley's interested in me, she's just one of the lads. But she was, like, she honestly craved attention like no other. She enjoyed the fact that she wound the girlfriends of these guys up by how close they were. And I know I said I don't have any malice towards anyone, but her, I would happily walk past in a street and not even acknowledge to this day. I really could not stand her. I couldn't stand their friendship. And it wasn't even me being a psycho, that's the thing. Like, it was weird, and she was just too friendly with everyone's boyfriend, and that was the problem. And if you asked all of the other girls whose boyfriends were in that kind of circle that she was friends with, they would tell you the same thing. It's not just me being weird. And I used to always look at their messages, because she would always send him like full-on love hearts after every fucking message, and I'd be like, where is the need for that? Like, why do you need to send each other love hearts after your message? And the thing that was more annoying about it was the fact that I knew that he had absolutely no interest in her. Like, there was not a chance he would be into her. All he cared about was getting back with me and making things up to me. But it was the fact that I knew for a fact that she wanted something to happen. Like, I knew she was thriving off of these love hearts that they were sending each other, and it was just driving me insane. And I kept saying to him, like, your friendship's weird, it's weird how she acts with everyone else's boyfriend, and he just never saw it. There was a guy who was in a couple of my classes in school. I'd always thought he was fit, but obviously I'd never acted on it because I've been in a relationship for majority of the time that I've been at school, to be honest. And I'm loyal, I don't cheat on people, unlike Harry. We'll call him Dan. So yeah, Dan was a guy, he was attractive. I'd always thought he was attractive, and I kind of knew him through other people. Like, I'd never really had a conversation with him. He was actually best friends with one of my friend's boyfriends. So the friend that I mentioned in my last video, Emily, the person whose house I stayed at, and Harry messaged her asking where I was, and she was one of my good friends. Her and her boyfriend were like that couple that had been together for years and you could never see them with anyone else. Spoiler alert, they did actually break up after we left school and they're not together anymore. But at this point, they were like the dream couple. Like, they were couple goals. They were just so perfect for each other. Like, you never could have imagined them being with anyone else. He was also the kind of boyfriend who would, like, all of her friends got on with really well. He was just a really nice guy. Like, he was so easy to get along with. And very often, like, do you know when your friend brings their boyfriend along to like a girls' day or something, and you're a bit like, oh, why have you brought your boyfriend? It's meant to be a girls' day. With him, it was never like that because he was one of the girls. He was best friends with Dan. Forgot what I called him for a second then. There was this one day where Harry and I went shopping, and when we were on the bus on the way back, I can't remember how it happened, but we ended up having like a huge argument about what he'd done, because obviously we were still in this like rut where he had cheated on me, but I didn't have the balls to break up with him, but neither of us, well, I really didn't want to be in the relationship. And we got off the bus, and I was meant to be going back to his and staying the night and everything, but I basically just stormed off, and I was like, look, I'm not staying with you tonight. And he was really like angry and upset, and he was shouting after me. And it was just really like, it was quite embarrassing, to be honest, because it was in the middle of the street. It was like maybe 5 o'clock in the evening at this point in December, so it was dark outside and there weren't many people around, but it was a bit awkward because we were very like publicising this argument. So anyway, I stormed off home because I only lived like 10 minutes down the road from him, and because of how angry he'd made me, I just felt like I had to get my own back. So I called Emily and I was like, what are you doing? And she was like, oh, I'm just at home with her boyfriend, who we'll call Max, and Dan. And I was like, can I come over? Because I've just had like a huge argument with Harry and I'm pretty sure he's going to try and come to my house and talk to me, and I don't want to be at my house when that happens. So she was like, yeah, of course. So I got my mum to drop me at Emily's house. I don't know if Harry ever did come to my house to try and talk to me, but obviously I wasn't there, so I don't know. And I think I probably turned my phone off for the night as well. My mum obviously knew where I was, but I told her that she couldn't tell him where I was. I didn't call Emily expecting Dan to be at her house so that I could go and be with Dan, you know. I called Emily because at the time, she was one of my better friends. Obviously, Beth was my best friend, but I think part of me didn't really trust her at the moment because of the fact that she'd hidden from me that he cheated on me for so long. So Emily was like my good friend, and she always made me laugh. I always had a good time with her, and I knew that it would cheer me up being at her house. So I go to her house, and obviously it's a bit of an awkward situation because she's there with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend's friend fancies me, and I kind of fancy him a little bit, but I'm being reserved because I've got a boyfriend still, but I don't really want to be in this relationship anymore. So I'm kind of seeking attention from this guy. I'm not saying that this is right, by the way. I shouldn't have gone to that house that night and spent the evening with someone that I fancied and that fancied me. Nothing happened, like I didn't cheat on Harry or anything, but I did obviously spend the night at Emily's house with another guy. I don't know if they stayed over or not. I definitely stayed over, but I don't know if Dan did. If he did, we didn't stay in the same bed or anything. It wasn't like that, but I did have like a full-on heart-to-heart with him. At one point I was sat in one of Emily's spare rooms with him talking about Harry and how I didn't want to be with him anymore. I wanted to break up with Harry. I didn't want to be with him anymore. I knew that it wasn't working, but there was a very small part of me that was just hanging on to everything we'd been through and hanging on to that love. I don't know what it was, even though he had literally done the worst thing possible to me and I knew that the relationship was screwed at this point. There was just part of me that was hoping it would still work, I guess, but it's insane. It really is. Anyway, the next day, we went out for the day, me, Emily, her boyfriend and Dan, and at that point Harry was ringing my mum saying, "Where's Meg?" And she just said she's out with friends. She obviously didn't tell Harry who I was out with, but then when I got home he called and he was like, "You've been out with Dan, haven't you?" Because I think he'd kind of heard through the grapevine that I was hanging out with Emily, Max and Dan a lot. So yeah, he was like, "You've been with Dan all day, like you fancy him, he fancies you, blah blah blah." He wasn't wrong, to be fair. Like, he did fancy me, I did fancy him a little bit as well. But like I've said before, Harry was the only person I'd been with for this whole year and a bit of my life. Even when we'd broken up, I'd never got with anybody else in those breakups. I'd always just spent them heartbroken and pining after him, whereas he had always moved on. He'd always got on with someone else in between, you know. So it was very, I mean, hypocritical for him to even be questioning my loyalty and B, having a go at me for even spending time with another guy when I'd never done it before. And I guess that's why it was so difficult for him to deal with. But I'm not in any way condoning what I was doing, but I think I'd just been pushed to my edge at this point. And it was one of those situations where I didn't want to be with Harry. I wanted to pursue things with Dan, or like just do what I wanted, basically. I didn't want to have the pressure of having a boyfriend, but I also didn't not want to be with Harry because part of me still loved him. It was a very difficult situation. It was over. Like, in both of our heads it was over, but neither of us could actually say it out loud, if that makes sense. Anyway, the thing that like fully pushed me over the edge, and I still to this day think that I kind of not overreacted, because I don't think it was an overreaction given everything that was going on, but I think I used the smallest little thing to push myself over the edge enough to want to break up with him. So I basically went on to his Facebook because I was still checking up on him, and he was obviously messaging Hayley. She was being desperate as per usual. But anyway, I read their conversation and she had sent him a message saying, "Thanks for letting me stay the other night." And I was like, what the fuck? Like, why is she staying at his house? And he didn't have another room either other than his sister's room, which was his sister's room. Like, there's no way that she would have slept anywhere other than probably in his bed with him. So I just lost it, and I was messaging Harry like, "Why the fuck have you had her round your house to stay?" I think the thing that I was more annoyed about was the fact that he didn't tell me about it, because I would have known that there was nothing in it if he'd said, "Hey, Hayley's staying over." I probably would have said, "No, she's fucking not," and he would have had to kick her out, but at least I would have known about it. But he just kept it a secret. I don't know why, because nothing did happen, and I do genuinely believe that nothing happened between them. But why keep it a secret from me? And I know what you're thinking, I'm a hypocrite because I was going out and not telling him where I was, but he was the one that was trying to win me back. He was the one that had cheated on me, so why was he then behaving like that and keeping secrets? And that was just what pushed me over the edge, and I was like, "Do you know what, I've had enough of your lies. I don't want to be with you anymore," and I broke up with him. And it was very weird because I'd never broken up with him before, and I felt literally no pain about it whatsoever. I was actually relieved that we'd broken up. He actually came to my house that night crying to collect everything that he had at my house. I don't think he had an awful lot here, but he came to collect it. He was crying, saying, "I can't believe like I messed things up so badly with us," and that was that. We were broken up, I was single. And the mistake that I made here was me thinking that Dan would be my kind of, what's even the word, like my rebound, I guess. Nothing more unattractive to a man or a woman than someone who's literally just got out of a relationship and starts putting it on you. Like, who wants to be a bloody rebound? That's probably the worst thing you could be, other than the other woman or the other man. I didn't push Dan away, but he definitely backed off a bit, which was weird because when I was with Harry, he was all over me, like wanted to talk to me all the time. But as soon as I was single, he didn't. It was really weird. I knew that I didn't want to be in another relationship. I'd only just got out of one. I wanted to be single, but I think I wanted to be single but also have a guy there to kind of make me forget about the fact that I'd broken up with Harry. But because Dan wasn't willing to be a rebound, which I don't blame him for at all, I think I then started to kind of feel the heartbreak of breaking up with Harry. And it was Christmas time as well. It's the worst time to break up with someone. Obviously, we finished school, maybe like a few days, literally a few days after me and Harry broke up, we would have finished school for the Christmas holidays. It became very difficult because things got nasty between me and Harry. I don't know why, I can't remember like what happened between us to make things go nasty. Maybe I made it go nasty because I just didn't want anything to do with him. All of a sudden we were just being horrible to each other, like we were abusing each other. I kept blocking him on Facebook, but I kept unblocking him because I wanted to see what he was up to. And he would message me like, are you unblocking me to check up on me? I'm just going to block you. Like, we were being horrible to each other. Like, probably the most horrible we'd ever been in all of the times we'd broken up. As much as I was glad the relationship was over, I didn't want to get back with him. But I was sad, especially with it being Christmas time. There was one evening where I had Emily over and we basically had like this big bottle of Strongbow, which makes me cringe because I didn't even like the stuff. I just pretended to like it because I thought it was cool. And we had loads of snacks and we were just having like a girls' night. But Emily had said to me, you know, I'll come over, but Max and Dan are going to come over like a bit later on. So I was kind of with Emily, and when I was with Emily I was literally like no makeup on, hair wasn't done. And then because she said Dan was coming, I then made myself look really nice. I mean, probably didn't look nice back then because I probably had like black thick eyeliner and all of that stuff you do when you're 15 that you think looks nice and definitely doesn't. My mum knew that Dan was coming over with Max. She had no issue with it. My mum was always very easygoing with me. Like, she kind of let me do what I wanted within reason, as long as it was nothing illegal or, you know, nothing that was wrong. I think she did just want me to have fun because I was moping around, I was being sad all the time, and as a mum it can't be easy to watch your young daughter being like that for like the third or fourth time over the same boy. Like, she probably wanted me to move on, in all honesty. So yeah, she was fine with it. I wasn't like gonna sleep with him or anything. I wasn't like, Mum, Dan's coming over to have sex with me. Like, it wasn't like that. They were just coming over to have like a fun evening at my house. So I got ready and Max and Dan came over and we were just sat on my bed like listening to music, drinking. Anyway, that same night Harry was having like a gathering at his house, but neither of us knew. Like, I didn't know he was having a gathering, he didn't know I was. So anyway, a bit later on in the night I get a text from Harry, and I'm sure a lot of girls can relate to this. Have you ever had it where you've got like an ex or a guy that you've like been talking to that is kind of gone sour, and they'll pretend that they've accidentally sent a message to you that was meant for someone else? Oh my god, it makes me laugh because it is so tragic. I've never done that. Like, I've literally never done that. I think it's a man thing because I don't think girls do it, but correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But yeah, he basically sent me a text which was meant for his friend, and he basically texted me saying, oh my god, Josh, you should see this girl that I'm getting with tonight, she's so fit. And he'd obviously sent it to me on purpose because he wanted me to feel upset that he was getting with somebody else. It had the complete opposite effect because, one, I couldn't have cared less what he was doing because I was with Dan. So, but even if I wasn't, like, even if I was at home on my own, I just don't think I would have cared because I was so done with this boy. Like, honestly, any girl was absolutely welcome to take him off my hands at this point because I was sick of him. I was literally sick of him. And this whole situation was just laughable because A, the guy that he was texting, this friend that he supposedly meant to send the text to, was literally at the party that he was having. He was at Harry's house, so why would he be texting him? Why would he not just go and tell him in person, you know? B, it was obvious anyway that he'd sent it to me on purpose and tried to play it off like it was an accident. And C, I was pretty adamant that he wasn't even getting with anyone anyway. It was just a kind of, I guess, trick to try and upset me. But it backfired on him because obviously he probably thought that I was just at home on my own doing nothing, just moping around, but he didn't realise that I was actually with the guy that he had been concerned about when we were sort of near the end of our relationship. I never even replied, to be honest, but 16-year-old Meg, I felt so smug about it. Like, I felt really smug about the fact that he tried to get one over on me, but actually I was the one that was about to get one over on him. He replied maybe like a couple of minutes after he sent that text saying, oh shit, sorry, it wasn't meant for you, like trying to be all assholey about it. And I just replied, I was like, look, don't worry, I'm with Dan, so you do what you want, like, sort of thing. I don't know what I exactly said, but I said something along those lines. And he then went off on one. He lost his shit, started having a massive go at me. He was trying to ring me and I wasn't answering the phone. But the thing is, like, if you want to start something like that, why are you then getting angry when I'm giving it to you back, you know? Like, I would never have rubbed it in his face if he hadn't done that. I would never have texted him and gone, by the way, I'm with Dan. I had no intention of telling him. I had no intention of him finding out because it was none of his business anymore. He was my ex-boyfriend. I would never have done that to him just to be malicious. He started it, I finished it, and he didn't like it. Anyway, in the end, Max, my friend's boyfriend, answered the phone and was like, look, Harry, there's no need for this nastiness between you two. You've broken up, you're doing your thing, Meg's doing her thing. Just like, let's just agree, like, not to be horrible to each other and not to use other people to try and get one over on each other, which he had a massive point. Like, Max, honestly, he was the same age as me. In fact, he's pretty much a whole year younger than me because his birthday was in August and mine was in September. So he was like the youngest in the year. So he would have still been 15 at this point and I was 16. But he was so mature about it. Like, he literally was the peacemaker in that situation. So yeah, he had a very good point. It wasn't fair of me to use Dan to try and get one over on Harry. Harry didn't really mention a girl's name, probably because she didn't exist. But anyway, it wasn't nice for us to be being so nasty to each other. But also, if we are going to be like that, it's not fair of us to drag other people into it, which is completely correct. Now, this is the part where it gets really confusing because honestly, me and Harry were so like on and off, like more than a light switch. Not as in we didn't get back together or anything, but like one day we would absolutely despise each other, be slagging each other to the high heels, being so nasty to each other, calling each other every name under the sun, and then the next day we'd be telling each other that we still loved each other. Like, it was really, really odd, this breakup. Christmas happened and I wasn't speaking to him for the whole of Christmas, but he did actually send me a text on Christmas Day just saying Happy Christmas. And I think I sent one back because I just wanted to be civil. It was Christmas Day, you know. A couple of days after Christmas, me and my mum were literally just sat, I think we were watching the EastEnders Christmas special, you know. And we were just sat eating leftover Christmas food and there was a knock at the door and it was Harry, and he'd come round with a bag of all of the presents that he bought me for Christmas. Remember, I mentioned in part 3 that he'd gone out and done all the Christmas shopping for me, but I hadn't bought him anything yet. And then I found out he'd cheated on me, so I just didn't end up ever buying him anything. He obviously bought me all of my presents, but never gave them to me, but also didn't give them to anyone else or take them back or anything. So he turned up on my doorstep with this big bag of presents for me, which made me cry because it was sweet of him to do that. He didn't have to do that. After like all of the nastiness that had happened, he didn't need to come and give me my Christmas presents, you know. And I think what upset me more was the fact that there was a Me To You bear, because I used to collect Me To You bears. There was a Me To You bear in there that had like a little heart that said the best girlfriend or the perfect girlfriend or something like that. So that made me cry because I was like, he's not my boyfriend anymore, I'm not his girlfriend anymore. He'd bought me like a nice Hollister top. I mean, we're talking back when I was 16. I'm not interested in any of these things anymore, but yeah, he'd bought me a Hollister top. He bought me like one of those cushions that you put in the microwave and then they smell nice, one of those, which I think I still have somewhere. He got me like really nice, thoughtful things that I loved. I loved it all, and I wanted to hate it all, but obviously I didn't. I loved it all. We ended up just hugging each other and he left, and then the next day my mum went out for the day and I invited Harry over. I said, look, I've got some new Wii games, why don't you come over and we can play my new Wii games. So he came over and we were playing. One thing led to another. We ended up sleeping together, which I never thought would happen, to be fair. Like, when we broke up, it was so sour that I never thought we would end up doing that again, but we did. And he said, you know, I missed you, and I said I missed him too, but we kind of both agreed. We were like, look, we might miss each other and we might still love each other, but we cannot be together because too much has happened. Like, there's just no way that we could make it work again. I knew that, he knew that. It wasn't a case of that we wanted to get back together. I think it was just a case of we did still love each other and we did still have that connection. So that happened, but it did actually only happen that one day. It wasn't like an ongoing thing. Then comes New Year's Eve, and I knew that he was going to a party that quite a lot of my friends were going to and quite a lot of people that I knew were going to, but I didn't want to go. I don't think I was invited, first of all. Like, I don't think it was a case of me being picky. I think I just wasn't invited. I was going over to my best friend Robin's house, and we were just having a night at hers, drinking. Obviously I was only 16 at this point, she was 15, so we couldn't go out or anything. We were just at hers drinking and having a girly night basically. And then we went back to school, maybe like, how soon do you go back to school after New Year's Eve? Like a few days. You have New Year's Day and then you normally go back on like the 3rd or 4th, I think. Don't ask me, I left school 10 years ago this year, which is terrifying. Yeah, we went back to school. And I basically found out that one of my friends, I'll call her Lucy because I've actually mentioned her in a video before, in my toxic best friend one, and I called her Lucy in that, I'm pretty sure, so I'll call her it again. She wasn't like one of my good friends, but she was my friend. Like, she was someone that I considered my friend. Basically, she had kissed him on New Year's Eve at this party, and I kind of already thought something had happened with them because loads of pictures got put on Facebook of that night, and there was loads of pictures of him with her, like nothing in it, not hugging each other or anything, but just there was loads of selfies of them, and I was like, why are they suddenly best mates? Like they weren't friends before. Well, I found out that she'd kissed him and I was a little bit hurt by it, but I don't think I wanted to let anyone know that, so I kind of didn't really get angry at him for it and didn't get angry at her for it. She actually apologised to me, she was like, I shouldn't have done it. But at this point, to be honest, I was used to my friends getting with him after we'd broken up, so whatever, you know, I was just like, okay, I don't care, sort of thing. I was obviously single now. I wasn't really getting with Dan anymore. Like, all that ever happened with me and Dan was a kiss. Nothing else happened other than that. I think he just really didn't want to be a rebound, to be honest, which is fair enough. I wouldn't want to be a rebound. This was the first time I was single and I kind of knew that I wasn't getting back with Harry and I didn't want to get back with him and he didn't want to get back with me, sort of thing. Then came this one day. I can't remember for the life of me what this guy wrote on my wall, but there was this guy that was kind of Harry's friend, I guess. They weren't like good friends, but he was someone that he smoked with sometimes, so I guess you could call him a friend. I wrote something on my wall, on my Facebook wall, because this was back in the days of writing on people's walls. Instagram and Snapchat and all that didn't exist back then. I can't remember what it was, but whatever it was a little bit flirty and it angered Harry. Like, but he didn't have a go at him, the person who was supposedly his friend. He decided to take the whole thing out on me, and he just kind of messaged me and he was like, why is what should we call him? We'll call him Jay. He's like, why is Jay writing that on your wall? Okay, well, firstly, Harry, it's literally none of your business why he's writing it on my wall. It's got nothing to do with you. You're not my boyfriend anymore. Like, go away. Secondly, it genuinely was innocent. Like, it wasn't innocent because he had written something that made Harry annoyed, but he hadn't written it because I was getting with him. Like, there was nothing in it, sort of thing. Like, it was innocent. Whatever it was just playful. Like, it wasn't a serious thing. It wasn't that deep. But whatever it was angered Harry, and he sent me a message and was like, just really angry with me. It basically ended in us having a massive argument, and that led to him basically saying, you know what, I lied to you. I didn't only cheat on you once. There's so many things that you don't know about that I've done behind your back for this whole time that we've been together. And instead of being, you know, sensitive about it, he literally sent me a fucking list of things he'd done. It was literally like a shopping list. It had a bloody heading of when we were together, and then underneath it, all of the shit he'd done behind my back when we were together. He cheated on me 4 times. 4. And I mean, he did say that it was only kissing. He said he didn't sleep with anyone while we were together, which was good of him, wasn't it? But underneath that was a load of stuff like not cheating related, but obviously like flirted with other girls, smoked behind your back, all of the stuff I knew he'd done anyway. And then there was another section with another heading, or a subheading should I say, that was whilst we were broken up. And in that section, obviously there was all of the stuff that I sort of knew about already, like him seeing my friend, him getting with other girls, but he had slept with 2 girls during the time that we'd been broken up. He'd slept with 2 other people. What? Knew that he'd always moved on when we were broken up, but I never thought he'd actually slept with anybody. And I find out in the form of a bloody shopping list, pretty much, that he slept with 2 other girls during the times that we were broken up. Where he found the time to do that, I don't know, because during our first breakup, he was pretty much getting with somebody else the whole time, and it was only like a 2-week-long breakup. And during our second breakup, he was seeing one of my friends, so... And it wasn't actually my friend that he slept with, it was someone else. I don't know who the girls were that he slept with, but it wasn't the friend that he was seeing. So he was a very busy boy when we were broken up. It was difficult reading it, I have to say, because for starters, I always knew that Harry didn't lose his virginity to me. I knew that Harry had slept with girls before me, but he was my first, but I wasn't his first, sort of thing. But I never thought that he would have slept with other girls and then got back into a relationship with me. And it just really angered me and upset me because even though majority of it, I knew it had happened, some of it was a shock. And it was just the heartlessness behind it, like the fact that he just sent me it as if it was some list that needed ticking off. I think I must have copy and pasted or screenshotted, I don't know. I sent it to my friend Emily and was like, look what I've just received off of Harry. And in my kind of rage, I did something I shouldn't have done, and I basically wrote a Facebook status. And I mean, now I would never take to social media to kind of air my dirty laundry, but I was just so angry. And the thing was with Harry is girls would always be like thinking I'm really lucky to be with him, and it didn't sit right with me that girls would think that about me when he'd done all of this shit to me that no one knew about. So I basically posted it on my Facebook status. I didn't post the exact thing that he'd written, but I basically posted a Facebook status saying, hi everyone, Harry's done this, this and this, so for everyone that thinks I was lucky to be with him, like, you're mistaken, sort of thing. And it got a lot of attention, naturally. Some people were telling me that I shouldn't have brought it to Facebook. Some people were saying, you poor girl, men are all the same, blah blah blah. My friend Emily had my back. She was sticking up for me. She was like, look, for all of you people saying that she shouldn't be putting it on Facebook, you should see the message he sent her. It's literally in the form of a list. There's absolutely like no emotion behind it whatsoever. It's heartless what he's done. If everything that he's done to her isn't enough, the fact that he's now just told her about more shit that he did behind her back when she's trying to get over him, or because he's had a tantrum over some guy writing on my wall, pathetic. And still to this day, that's the worst thing he's ever done to me. He bloody cheated on me, but that in itself was just heartless. You wouldn't think that someone would treat somebody they'd been with for over a year in that way. So the next day I went into school, obviously very angry, very upset, and I just wanted to do something to hurt Harry because I just felt like he deserved it. He deserved to be hurt like he'd hurt me. There was a guy, I'll call him Ben. Ben was a guy that I had gotten with in the past. I'd never slept with him, obviously, because I lost my virginity to Harry, but he's someone that I had done other things with before I was with Harry. And he kind of spoke to me at school. Obviously, everyone at school had seen my Facebook status the night before, so I was kind of like a big topic of conversation that day. I ended up going back to Ben's house after school, and I stupidly had sex with him. And I thought that I was getting one over on Harry because Harry saw us leaving together. He saw us walking in the direction of Ben's house, and he actually sent Ben a message on Facebook when I was at Ben's house saying, oh, I thought you'd be getting laid now, mate, don't know what you're doing on Facebook, sort of thing. And Ben was just a bit like, all in good time, my friend, all in good time. Which is just disgusting, isn't it, when you think about it? Like the fact that my ex-boyfriend was messaging a guy that I was with, and this guy's basically saying to my ex, I'm gonna have sex with her in a minute, I'm just waiting a little while. It's disgusting. The way that I was actually treated in this scenario, I don't think I ever realised how bad it was until I grew up and realised like the seriousness of this situation. But basically, Harry then goes on Facebook and writes a status about how I'm a slag because I've decided to move on for the first time in my fucking life. Bear in mind, by the way, he's just told me that he's shagged girls during our breakups and that he's cheated on me 4 times, yet I'm a slag for going and having sex with someone after we've broken up. Are you sure? I shouldn't have done it. Like, to this day, I regret it so much. But I was hurt and I wanted to hurt him, and it did work. It did hurt him. But it did backfire on me because I ended up, well actually no, I'll tell you that bit in a minute. I don't want to get like I don't think I'm going to get upset because it was so long ago, but this is a very serious topic. So as much as I try and make these story times like funny and lighthearted, this shit that I'm about to tell you is bad. So I slept with Ben, I went home, and that night Harry turns up on my doorstep crying, saying, admit that you slept with him, tell me that you slept with him. And I refused to admit it because 1, I'd lied to my mum and said that I didn't, and 2, I just didn't think it was any of his business. And I quite liked the fact that he was wondering about it, like he didn't know the truth, sort of thing. I go into school the next day. One of my friends, who I called her Claire when I talked about her in part 1, it would have been Claire was my friend basically who fancied Harry but never admitted it, and so I went out with him because she told me she didn't like him in that way. And then when I went out with him, she started saying like, why is he with her? And she sort of disowned me for sleeping with Ben. She was literally on Harry's side. She was like, I feel really bad for Harry after what you've done. And I'm like, what I've done? Has everyone forgotten what he did to me? And has everyone forgotten the reason why I've done this is because of the message that he sent me the other night telling me everything he'd done? It was really bizarre because so many people were on Harry's side. It was fucking ridiculous. So I'm in school the next day thinking I've got one up on Harry, but firstly, loads of my friends were turning against me for it, thinking that I was a slag and that I was horrible to him and that I'd done something so wrong, even though I was single and I could do what I wanted, and Harry cheated on me and no one seemed to give a shit about that. I then find out that Ben recorded us without my knowledge. I didn't know that he'd done it. In this day and age, I think they call it revenge porn. I'm sorry, by the way, if any of my family are watching this and you didn't know about this. You probably didn't. I'm pretty sure my mum's the only one that knows. So sorry if this is a shock to you. But that happened. I was in school and suddenly everyone's coming up to me telling me that Ben had recorded it and sent it to some of his friends. In that moment, I just didn't know what to do. The bell went to go to our lessons because this was on our break that this happened. I opened my locker, I got my bag and I walked out of school and I went home to my mum and I cried and I said I did sleep with that boy and he recorded it without my knowledge. It's a difficult thing to speak about because I just remember how hurt I was in that moment and everyone was talking about me, like literally everyone at school was talking about me. If anyone has ever been through this, I'm really sorry that that happened to you because it's the worst thing. And obviously it's not kind of on the level of sexual assault, but you know, he filmed me without my knowledge and then showed his friends. It is revenge porn. And like I said, I had friends, but they weren't really there for me. I was getting messages off of girls that I'd never even really spoken to, asking me if I was okay, because I just refused to go back to school. I was too scared. I was too ashamed to go into school. He got 1 day of suspension for literally filming a girl in that way without her knowing about it and then showing his friends. Not really right, is it? 1 day suspension. I actually had to go in and speak to my teacher. Like, she had to watch the video because she had to know what like the severity of it was. And meanwhile, while all of this is happening, Harry is laughing about it. He's like, ha ha ha, you tried to get one over on me and it's backfired on you. Sorry, I don't know why I'm getting upset. It was just horrific, and this is the first time I've kind of ever spoken about it. I kind of just shut it out and never really spoke in detail about it. I can't believe I'm crying on the internet. This is ridiculous. I was so humiliated. I was just, I can't even explain it. Like, I really did not want to be seen by anyone ever again. To have my friends turn their back on me because they thought I was a slag for doing what I'd done. To have my ex-boyfriend, I was already obviously going through a breakup at this point. My ex-boyfriend is laughing at the fact that I've been exposed, like been a victim of revenge porn, basically. I should mention that a few days later, after I just hadn't turned up for school for a few days, Harry did text me and say, I hope you're okay. It didn't really mean an awful lot to me at that point because he'd already shown that he didn't really give a shit if I was okay. Okay, I've pulled myself together now. Jesus Christ, I was not expecting this video to take that kind of turn. But yeah, the guy got 1 day suspension. I obviously eventually went back to school. I had to go back because I was in my last year of school. It was my GCSE year. Luckily, obviously, I only had like 6 months, maybe 5 months left of school anyway. So it made it a little bit easier that I wouldn't have to see these people again after that. But when I say I made it easier, it made it a tiny, minuscule bit easier because it was horrendous. The first day that I went back to school after, I was just so paranoid that everyone was looking at me, everyone was talking about me, and it took me a long time to get over, a long time. I mean, I obviously already didn't trust people because of what Harry had done, but now it was almost like Ben hurt me as much as Harry did, because not only was he someone that I did trust, he was one of my friends, like he was a guy that I'd been with before. I didn't think he would ever do that just to be able to say to his mates, look what I've done, look what I've got. And I just, to be honest, feel like I was totally cheated in that situation, because what actually got done about it other than him getting suspended for one day, and I just had to go back in school like nothing had happened. In case anyone was wondering what happened after that, Harry and I never got back together. We didn't speak again after that. I actually ended up getting into a new relationship not that long after this happened, which is a whole other story. And now that I've finished this story about Harry, I am going to start another story time series about this next boyfriend that I had, because he kind of just made everything worse, to be honest. And I think the only reason I even got with him in the first place was because I felt very vulnerable after what had happened to me. I'm sorry that this video's taken like a massive emotional turn. I think just talking about it again has just brought up a lot of emotions that I forgot I had. That's going to conclude this story time about my first love. There's nothing else to say. There have been occasions since we broke up, after we'd left school, when we'd grown up a little bit, where we went on dates. Like he's taken me out a few times since we broke up. He tried to actually get back with me a couple of times, literally years and years on, when we were a lot older, but I've never gone back. I've never been interested in him in that way ever again. But like I said, I don't wish any malice on him. He was so young. I don't have anything really to say about Ben. I hate the fact that I've even really given him the screen time, to be honest, because I haven't seen him for years. I literally would have nothing to say to him if I did see him. He got off very lightly with what he did, and I hope that he's never done it to another woman since. But I wish Harry all the happiness in the world. Honestly, I really mean that. It's a good thing what happened, because it taught me how to love and it taught me how to deal with heartbreak. So I don't regret anything that happened. If I could go back and do it all again, I would, obviously minus the revenge porn bit, but if I could go back and do the relationship again, I would, because as much as he did really hurt me, we had some really amazing times together. And yeah, that's that really. I hope you all enjoyed this video. I guess enjoyed's a bit of the wrong word to say at this point, but I hope you liked this video. I hope you enjoyed this whole story time series. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all for your continued support, and I'll see you in my next video where I won't be crying. Bye guys.